Let us start our discussion today for our classes. Today's class. We have already discussed the differential equation of equilibrium. It was like this, a solid body is in equilibrium. That we have 6 rectangular stress components have to satisfy, which we have to satisfy the 3 equations of equilibrium. Means we are assuming that a particular point in the solid body which is under load is subjected to stresses into 3 mutually perpendicular direction, say sigma x, sigma y, and sigma z, and the shear strain in xy, yz, and zx plane. Total six stress and equivalent to 6 strain in longitudinal xx, xy, xz, xx, eyy, ezz, as well as gamma xy, gamma zy, zy, as well as gamma zx. These 6 equations with 6 unknown 6 strain cause total 6 equation which we have around 36 unknowns. Now we have shown. Next, we assume that the strain at the point is same in all direction. That is means it is isotropic. Is it isotropic material? Material is isotropic. So we have seen how the stress component, we reduced all the statistics component into 2 components only. Then the stress components are related to strain components using these two equations, which is Lami's coefficient. So we are with these two unknowns, we have formulated the stress strain relations with the as per the Lami's equation itself. Hence, stress equation of equilibrium can be converted into strain equations of equilibrium itself. Related to the displacement component itself. Therefore, the strain equation of equilibrium can be converted to displacement equation of equilibrium. Here, the result will be derived accordingly. So, what we are doing, we want to get from the strain equations, we want to get the displacement equations. Strain is the, definition of strain is displacement or elongation per unit length, where displacement is only just the total deflection or total change in load, change in dimension, which takes place for a body under a certain external load itself. From the displacement equation, differential equation of equilibrium, we know that sigma x, differentiation of sigma x in terms of dx, differentiation of tau xy in terms of y direction, and tau zx in terms of dz is equal to 0, which means we have derived the stress along x direction in terms of x, stress along shear strain in xy direction, xy plane in terms of y, because shear stress in xy plane is directing towards y direction to y axis. So we have derived the tau xy by y direction, and sigma x by sigma dz by zx, sigma tau by zx related by dz. Here we are assuming that this shear stress zx is pointing towards the z direction itself. Acha. Now, for an isentropic material, isentropic means just have told you, whose stress component of a particular direction is same in any direction, where isotropic this is isotropic. And for isentropic, the stress content in all over the material may be same, but may not be same in the direction itself. So for isentropic material, we have assumed that other stresses are, for an isentropic material which has same stresses in all direction for a particular point, we assume that we have same lateral deflection, and for a stress in x direction, the same amount of lateral deflection takes place in y and z direction itself. And with this assumption, we have deduced 3 equations, and like sigma x is a lambda is equations for by the stress variance, which is just 1 second, please. By taking the following the theory of stress by invariant of stress, first invariant of stress and first invariant of strain, etc., we have got that for isotropic material sigma x lambda into delta plus 2 into mu epsilon xx, where mu and lambda are the Lami's coefficient, which are being used in terms of the 36 coefficient in the six related Hooke's law equations, and out of this lambda and mu is more or less near to the mu is more or less near, more close, more defined as the modulus of gyration or modulus of z, and delta is the first. Delta is first is a cubical defined known as cubical dilation or invariant, fast invariant of strain. Both the names are given to delta itself. So here, and we have already discussed and proved that tau xy means shear stress along xy in xy plane is equal to mu into gamma xy, the shear strain along xy plane, which shows that mu is more or less equivalent to chi itself. Same is the case of tau zx is equal to mu gamma zx itself. Hence, this above equation becomes, if we put the respective values here on this in this equation from this f psi x, f psi xy, f psi zx, etc. If we place this equation, this above equation will become lambda into d by d delta by dx plus mu 2 into d f psi xx by dx delta y f psi xy by dy and gamma delta d gamma xz by zx, which is equal to 0 itself. First, for Cauchy's differential equations, Cauchy's strain distribution relation, we know f psi xx or the strain is, or the strain in x-axis along x-axis is equal to differentiation of Ex divided by Ux, where Ux is the displacement vector itself. Gamma xy is equal to dux by dy plus duy by dx, which where Ux and Uy are all displacement vectors in x direction and y direction itself. Similarly, gamma zx is delta Ux by Uz, Ux by Uz plus delta Uz by Ux, where again Uz is the displacement vector along Uz axis itself. Now, substituting this, now substituting these values in here, we'll get delta by del x is remains as it is into lambda plus mu into 2 here. Mu put outside the bracket itself, 2 remains inside. Mu into 2 into d f e x x f psi x x by dx and d gamma yx by dy and give d gamma zx by dx itself. So if we substitute the value f psi xx is equal to dux by dx, f psi gamma xy dux by dy plus gamma dux by dx. Similarly, gamma zx dux by dz and duz by ux, where uz, ux and uy are all displacement vector along z-axis, x-axis and y-axis itself. If we substitute these values here, what will happen? This lambda d delta by dx remains same, plus mu remains same, 2 multiplied by here. We have to, at second quadrant of equation, quadratic equation, d2 ux by dx square, d2 y square by dx square plus d2, again d2 y plus dx dy, and d2 ux by dz square plus d square uz by dx dz. This is equal to 0 itself. Again, what we are doing here, we put this term, and this term together here inside the bracket and with mu outside the bracket, and the other terms like say there are two d ux by dx, so we put one of them is here and another is here, and put the d dx outside, and inside du by dx, and dy by dx we put it dy by dy plus d uj by dz, and whole are supposed to be differentiated by d by dx, and that is multiplied by mu, and altogether it is equal to 0. So observing that, what is happening here, delta, which is the second variance of delta is the cubical dilation or first invariant of strain J, first invariant of stress, which is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 and sigma 3, and first invariant of strain is equal to epsilon xx plus epsilon yy plus epsilon zz. So it is become lambda Exx plus Uyy plus Ezz is equal to delta Ux by Dx, Uy by Uy, and Uz by Jz. So that we put the value of Exx, Eyy, and Ezz here. So lambda, if we put the lambda, the value of delta here, so with this equation, this will become delta x by dx into dux by dx, du by dy, du by dz itself. This one and this equation remains same. It is multiplied by mu, and this is multiplied by lambda. So if we add them together and put dy by dx here, this equation remains same, and this one is supposed to be came here. So with this, all whole equation is equal to 0 itself. It is one of the displacement equation of equilibrium as per our definition itself. Now, if we use this notation, capital delta square is equal to d square by dx square, d square by dy square, d square by dz square. So what will happen? Displacement equation of equilibrium thus becomes lambda plus mu is here, and d by dx into lambda. We put this thing here, and mu into delta lambda square, which is here, which is supposed to be put here, lambda square into dx itself, where ux itself, where everywhere we are deriving the ux. So if we replace this by dy delta lambda square and multiplied by mu, this is same. So lambda square plus into multiply ux into lambda. Here we are putting this equation. So here, so what we are getting here, we are getting the del lambda here by dx here itself, because lambda is become, we have already reduced this dux by ex, duy by ui, and du by dz. We so put in place of this one here, we put lambda, we get d lambda by dx, and in case of this one here, we put lambda square d square by dx, d square by dx here. So that is lambda square multiplied by ux. This is the displacement equation. Thus, the displacement equation of equilibrium becomes this particular equation of shape lambda plus mu d lambda by dx plus mu lambda square into ux is equal to 0 itself. Similarly, from second and third equation of equilibrium, we'll have in the following the same theory, lambda plus mu into d lambda by dz, mu into lambda square ux, lambda plus mu d lambda by dz plus mu into n square by nz itself. This will be y, and this will be y here. And one thing, just let me clarify a bit. This. One second, displacement equation. Okay. Sure. So that will be, yes, that is become d lambda here by not dz but dy, and mu into lambda square into uy into equal to 0. And lambda plus d lambda by dz, mu lambda square plus nz, uz, not nz, it looks like n, but it's a u. Uz is equal to 0 itself. These are called Lami's displacement equation of equilibrium itself. They involve a synthesis of the analysis of stress, analysis of strain, and the relation between stress and strain. This equation also gives us the mathematical, geometrical, and physical characteristic of an elastic solid. Consequently, Lami's equation plays an important prominent role in the solution of the problem itself. Now, let us go for one problem. Just 1 second. Let us have this problem here. The rubber cube is marked or inserted in a cavity of the same form and size in a steel block. And the top of the cube is pressed by a steel block itself with a pressure of P pascals. Considering the steels to be absolutely hard and assuming that there are no friction between steel and rubber, find the pressure and of the rubber against the box walls and maximum shear stress in the rubber itself. So what is given? This is the steel cavity of the steel. This is a steel block with a cavity where we are pushing a rubber block here by means of the external force P. And top of the cube, yes, placed by the external force of P pascals. And the steel to be absolutely free means it does not deflect at all, and there is no friction in between them. So we have to find what is the pressure of rubber created against the box walls, and what is the maximum shear stress created in the rubber itself. It is evident that if you want to push this rubber from the top, it will face a shear stress in this surface and a shear stress in this surface itself. Let L be the dimension of the cube. Since the cube is constrained in x and y direction, then epsa xx equal to 0 and epsa yy is equal to 0 and epsa z is equal to p. L is the dimension of the cube, as it is a cube, it is the dimensions are same in all directions. Hence, the cube is constrained in x and y direction, then epsa xx is equal to 0 and epsa yy is equal to 0. So epsa xx, we are thinking in this direction and in this direction, and there is both of them, epsa xx and gamma epsa yy, both are equal to 0. There is no strain in x direction as well as no strain in y direction. But as we have vertical force P, so there is a stress in z direction that is equal to minus P, and it is minus because it is compressive in nature. Now, therefore, what will happen? Epsa xx we have on the equation 1 by E, sigma x minus gamma or Poisson's ratio multiplied by sigma y and plus sigma x. Similarly, epsa yy equal to minus 1 by B, E, epsa y minus gamma into sigma xx plus sigma z, which is equal to 0. Solving this, what we got, sigma x is equal to sigma y is equal to 1 by 1 minus gamma, and gamma x is equal to minus gamma divided by 1 minus gamma itself. If the Poisson's ratio is around, just 1 second. If the Poisson's ratio is equal to 0.5, then you see sigma x is equal to sigma y and is equal to sigma z is equal to minus p. So it is a compressive flow phi in all three directions if the Poisson's ratio is just half. So the maximum displacement shear stress will be sigma 1, sigma chi 2, sigma 1 minus sigma 3, chi 3, sigma 1 minus sigma 2, tau 1, sigma 2 minus sigma 3 divided by 2 itself. So if mu, or what you say, gamma, and sigma x and sigma are numerically or less than or equal to sigma j, its Poisson's ratio is less than or equal to 0.5, and sigma x and sigma j are numerically less than or equal to sigma j, then sigma x, sigma y, and sigma z itself are all compressive in nature. And sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2 equal to gamma 1 minus gamma into p. Then sigma 2 is equal to sigma 3 minus gamma by 1 minus gamma into p. So gamma 2, here is gamma 2 is saying that gamma minus into 1 by 1 minus gamma into p. Here gamma 2 is a minus sign, but have a minus sign. This is tensile and this is compressive in nature. And gamma 3 is equal to gamma j is equal to minus p. So tau 1, putting the values of sigma itself, we got tau 1 is p into 1 minus 1 by gamma is equal to 1 minus 2 gamma by 1 minus gamma into p, tau 2, 1 minus 2 into v into p, and tau 3 is equal to 0. If p is the 0.5, if v is equal to 0.05, the shear stress are all 0 equal to 0. Then let us go through a cubical element, another problem, which is told like this. A cubical element is subject to the following state of stress. Sigma x is given as 100 MPa, sigma y is given as minus 20 MPa, sigma z is minus 40 MPa. These two are compressive in nature. And tau xyz, xy, tau yz, and tau zx are all equal to 0. Assuming the material is homogeneous and isotropic, determine the principal shear strain and the orthogonal octahedral shear strain if E is equal to P into 10 to the power 5 MPa and gamma is equal to 0.25. E is equal to 2.5. E is equal to 2 into 10 to the power 5 MPa and gamma is equal to 0.25. So what will happen? Determine the principal stress and strain and the orthogonal stress shear stress is equal to G, equal if determine the principal shear strength and the orthogonal shear strength if E is equal to 2 into 10 to the power 5 MPa and V and gamma is equal to 0.25 itself. Just 1 second, please. Too much pain in the hand. Now, since the shear stresses on XY and Z plates are all 0, the given stresses are principal stresses. What is given? Tau XY, tau XYZ, and tau ZX. So, in Y direction, in Y-axis, Z-axis, and X-axis, that is along Y-axis, Z-axis, there is no shear stress. So we can say the stress in X direction, which is given, is the principal stress. Stress in Y direction, which is given here, is principal stress, and stress in Z direction, which is given here, which is also principal stress itself. So, and arranging such a manner, we have to arrange it accordingly because we have the maximum, we have the intermediate, we have the minimum. This is sigma 1 is the maximum, sigma 2 becomes the intermediate minus 20 MPa, and sigma 3 is the minimum minus 8 to 40 MPa. The external shear stresses are tau 1 half sigma 2 minus sigma 3 is equal to 1 by 2 minus 20 plus 40 is equal to 10 MPa itself. And you know tau 1 is half sigma 2 and sigma 3 is half minus 20 plus 40 is 10 MPa. Tau 2 half sigma 3 minus sigma 2 and minus 40 minus 100 is minus 70 MPa, and tau 3 half sigma 1 minus sigma 2 half 180 plus 20 is equal to 20 MPa. The modulus of resistivity Z is now thus given by G is equal to E divided by 2 into 1 plus gamma. E is given here, and gamma is also given. If we put them together, we'll have this value 8 to 10 MPa. So the principal shear strengths are therefore tau 1 divided by J1, gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3, tau 1, tau 2, and tau 3 itself. It is like this. We got the external shear stresses are what we have got from the principal stress. We got the tau 1, tau 3, and tau 3 itself. I have already calculated that. So by using the value of G and tau 1, we place 10 minus 70 plus 60, we got the principal shear strength 1.25 to the power minus 4 minus 8.75 to the minus 4 and 7.5 to the minus 4 itself. And octahedral shear stresses are 1/3 given by this equation tau 0 is 1/3 sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus sigma 2 minus sigma 3 whole square plus sigma 3 minus sigma 3 whole square, all are under square root or all to the power half. So put the value of the difference here, and here, which is 120, 20, and 140, make a square and make the square root and divide by the 1/3 divided by 3 is equal to 61.8 MPa itself. So this is the octahedral shear stress, and octahedral shear strain is all because gamma 0 is tau 0 divided by G and 61.8 MPa divided by 8 to the power 4 into 7 into 7.17 to the power minus 4 itself. So thus we have got the shear stress as well as the maximum shear stress itself. Just one thing. Hooke's law is the principle. Let us go through the next portion of our course, our module. That is Hooke's law with principle of superposition itself. Earlier we have mentioned, earlier attention was given as focused on the analysis of stress and strain at a point itself. Now, except for the condition that the material we considered was a continuum. Shape and size of a body as a whole was not considered. Actually, what do we mean by continuum? We actually know a specific shape and size or dimension of a particular body which we are in use. But continuum means a body which is arbitrarily chosen of not of any particular size and shape. Sorry. A shape of the body as a whole was not considered. Stress and strains at a point were related to the material or the constitutive equations. Constitutive stress and strain, they are related to the material itself as well as the constitutive equation, that the sixth equation among between the six stress and strain, along with these coefficients or components is called constitutive equation. Here too, the material property rather than the behavior of the body as such was not being considered. How the body is behaving under the stress we have considered go through, but what is exactly the material's property we have not taken into account. For the theory of failure, this was discussed that the critical conditions to improve failure at a point now, we shall also consider a body or a structural body material or a machine element or a machine element along with the force acting with Hooke's law itself. Hooke's law will relate the phase acting on a body to the displacement, relate the force acting on a body to the displacement. When the body deforms under the action of external force, work done by this force is also stored as strain energy inside the body itself, which shall be received, which can be received when the lateral is elastic in medium. It assumes that the forces are applied gradually. So what we are doing here in the Hooke's law, first of all, we have analyzed the stress of strain and strain individually and their relation. We have analyzed the constitutive equation, that the relation between stress and strain with six different equations with total 36 unknown coefficients, and we have the stress and strain at a point were related to the material or the constitutive equations itself. But the material property, rather than the behavior of the body, we have not considered. On the theory of failure, it was discussed that the critical condition to improve failure at a particular point. What is the theory of failure? What is the critical condition to improve the failure at a particular point? What is the optimum, a related condition to follow on a particular point with which we can make the design of the point itself? Now, we consider a body a structured material or a machine element along with the force acting on it. First of all, a certain body or a certain machine element or not a structural material. These are the different type of material which is available here, which is under the external force here, acting as along the Hooke's law. And the Hooke's law will relate the force acting on the body to the displacement acting resulted with that action of the world resulted with the action of the force itself. Now, when the body deforms, so we'll relate to the force. When the body deforms under the action of external force itself, work done by these forces is stored as strain energy inside the body itself, which can be recovered on when the lateral is elastic in nature, and it assumes that the forces are applied gradually itself. When the what is said, the body is deformed under the action of some external forces, and that particular force has causes certain displacement, which means that partial force is doing certain work that is being stored inside the material itself, and which will be released. It's supposed to be elastic in property, and it is to be released when the body is to the external force will be removed itself. So we assume that the forces are applied casually itself. Thus, the strain energy methods are extremely important for the solution to any problem of machines of solid and the structural analysis. Many of the theories developed now useful to solve the dispersion problems and statical indeterminate structure and power work and the framework itself. So continuum, a continuous sequence in which adjust elements X and perceptually different from adjust element X and perceptually different from each other, but the extremes are quite distinct. It is somewhat that keeps a going that in the continuum of 4 regions, it is changing the slight over time and slightly over time itself. Now, what is the Hooke's law and principal superposition itself? The rectangular stress components at a point can be related to the rectangular strain components at the same point, though a set of linear equations that were to be generalized Hooke's law itself. Just a second. And they were designated as the generalized Hooke's law itself. The Hooke's law as applicable to the elastic body as a whole is that is relate the complete system of forces acting on the body in the deformation of the body itself, which when the law asserts that deflection are proportional to the forces which produce them. Displacements are proportional to the force which produces them. This is a very general assertion without any restriction as the shape and size of the individual body. So what we are saying in Hooke's law is that is a very old and very too much discussed matter. Stress is proportional to strain. Strain or stress is proportional to displacement, which is causes due to these forces. And when the body is in elastic state, if the force is removed, the body will go down, flow back to the original shape itself. And it's a very general equation, but it doesn't take into account what is the particular shape and size of the loaded body. Here, a force F1, here is the force F1 is applied at a point A. A force F1 is applied at a point A, and of it is in the body in equilibrium and in consequence, the point 2 undergoes displacement or a deflection, which according to the Hooke's law is proportional to F1 itself. This deflection at point 2 may take place in a direction which is quite different from that of F1. If D2 is the actual deflection, we have D2 is equal to K21 into F1, where K21 is the same proportional constant. So here we have a force F1, say here, F3 here, say D2 is the deflection at the point 2, displacement or deflection, which according to Hooke's law is proportional to F1 itself. And in proportional to F1, this deflection at point 2 may take place in a direction which is quite different from that of F1. This deflection, it means such that it is not parallel or not concentric with the line of action of F1. It can be in different places and totally in different direction itself. If D2 is the actual deflection, tau should have D2 is equal to K1 to F1. D2 is the actual deflection. We have D2 K21 to F1, where K21 is the sum proportional constant itself. When F1 is increased, D2 is also supposed to be increased proportionally. Let D2 be compared by D small d2 will be compared by the capital D2 as a specified condition. And if theta is the only angle between the D2 and D2, then what will happen is the theta is the angle here is the capital D1, capital D2. Where what we do, the capital D2 is the actual deflection and given by K21 by F1, and small d2 is the component of capital D2 in a specified condition itself. If we increase, say, this is the capital D2, it was initial deflection. If we increase by the increasing the pressure, this D2 is also increased and its component will be the in a specified condition. Let D2 is the component in a specified condition itself. Now theta is the angle between this D2 deflection, D2 component deflection D2. Then D2 is equal to D2 into cos theta, capital D2 into cos theta, and is equal to K21. We put the value of D2 as cos of F1, cos theta into F1 itself. If we keep constant, and then that is if we fix our attention on the deflection itself, deflection specified manner, then D2 is the 821 F1, where 821 is the constant, whereas therefore one can consider the displacement of point 2 in any specified direction and apply Hooke's law. Let us consider the vertical component of the deflection. Let us consider the vertical component of the deflection at point 2. If D2 is the vertical component, then Hooke's law asserts that D2 is the 822 into F1. Achha, we have got a relation. The deflection D2, if the force F1 is increased, and which becomes a component of the deflection D2, which was the deflection where force was initially applied, and which is the theta is the angle between D2 and D2, and K2 is given as K2 is the as D2 is given by K21 into F1. Now, again, if we keep the in order to keep the constant, if we fix our attention to the deflection in a specified direction, then D2 will be A21 into F1, where A21 is the constant itself. D2, one here we are D2, we are asking for deflection D2 in a specified direction itself. So we can consider the deflection, this specimen at the point 2 in any specified direction and apply Hooke's law. Let us consider the vertical component of deflection at point 2. If D2 is the vertical component, the Hooke's law asserts that D2 is A22 into F1. We are getting another action of component of multiplication, which is given as A22 into F1. That A22 is a constant called influence coefficient for vertical deflection at point 2. And due to a force supplied to a specified dimension at a point itself. Point 1. If F1 is